Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me again. What you are looking at is one of my Christmas table decorations, and I'm sharing it with you tonight because when we get to New Year's Day, if you're anything like me, you start thinking about how long we have to keep the Christmas tree for before it gets to go outside. And because I was thinking about that today, I thought I'd tell you one more Christmas story. This is called The Christmas Eve Tree. It's by Delia Huddy, and I warn you now, this story quite often makes me cry, but we'll see how we do. So here's The Christmas Eve Tree. A forest of Christmas trees stretching over the hills. That's where the story begins. There the little fir tree was planted, but planted carelessly, so that when the wind blew strong, it fell sideways onto its neighbour and had no chance to grow. The years went by until one December, when the foresters dug up trees for the Christmas market. The little fir tree, stunted and still tangled with its neighbour, was loaded onto a trailer and driven down the motorway to the city. "Oh my," it said breathlessly, for it was at the bottom of the pile. The tallest trees were taken away, one to stand proudly in a cathedral, another in the middle of a large square, and a third to decorate the stage at a grand Christmas ball. But most of the trees were bought by ordinary folk, for houses where children covered them with stars and tinsel, and chocolate mice and small secret parcels. The little fir tree and its companion were taken to a large store, where late on Christmas Eve they were the only trees left unsold. A shopper hurried in to make a last-minute purchase. "You'll not want this weedy thing, miss," said the shop assistant, as he pulled the little fir tree from the roots of the bigger tree and threw it on one side. The customer smiled and went off, pleased with her buy, but the little fir tree felt fearful of what its fate might be. There was a boy in the shop, drawn in from the rain outside by the warmth and the lights and the wonderful spicy smell of Christmas. He said, "You throwing that away? Can I have it?" The assistant looked at the little fir tree. It was hardly what you'd call a tree at all, and so he shrugged and handed it over. After all, it was Christmas Eve, and the store would be closing any minute. The boy went outside into the cheerless evening. He held the little fir tree carefully in front of him so that none of its few crooked branches would get snapped off. He set off on the long walk to the river. On his way, he found a cardboard box in a bin, and he took that too. When he came to the river, the tide was out, and down the steps a small pebbly beach was showing. The boy climbed down, and digging the mud with his hands, he planted the little fir tree in the cardboard box. Near the steps, under the arches of a railway bridge, the boy had another cardboard box, big enough to sleep in. He put the tree on the pavement in front of him. "What a poor thing I am," thought the little fir tree. But the boy seemed pleased, and so the fir tree felt more cheerful. "I belong to someone now," it said to itself, and it began to feel like Christmas. A passer-by dropped a coin into the boy's lap. It was enough to buy him supper, but instead he crossed over to the newsagent and bought some candles and a box of matches. He fixed the candles to the branches of the little fir tree. Now other people were returning to claim their cardboard boxes for the night. They gathered around the boy and the little fir tree. The busker with the accordion sat down, and soon the notes of a Christmas song blended with the rumble of trains overhead, and everyone started to sing. People gathered, home-going travellers, theatre-goers, sightseers. A policeman tried to move them on, but they stood where they were, the singing people, and the traffic was brought to a halt. The candles burnt steadily. The old man played and the people sang. The little fir tree thought it would burst with happiness. It was obvious that the boy had forgotten that tonight he would be sleeping in a cardboard box under a railway arch. The magic of Christmas Eve was everywhere. A few days later, the boy moved on. "You're more dead than alive," he said sadly to the little fir tree as he walked away. And the tree, feeling dry and brittle, had to agree. But while other Christmas trees were piled onto bonfires, the little fir tree was put into a road sweeper's barrow. "There's a green shoot on this," said the road sweeper, looking at the tree's roots. And secretly, he planted it in the corner of the park gardens. And there you will still find it. Not so little now, for against all the odds it grew. If not big and tall, at least cheerfully stout. So now it stretches out its branches for sparrows, pigeons, babies in prams, lovers and office workers, and the mice nibble around its roots. And as the winter days shorten, the fir tree dreams of its poor beginnings in the hills, of that magical Christmas Eve, and of sunny days in the park. "Who would ever have thought," it says to itself, as it looks forward to another spring. I think that's a story that's full of hope, although I do worry a little bit about what happened to the boy in the story. Anyway, as ever, I'm going to finish with a prayer, and as ever, if you would like to make it your prayer, feel free to stick an amen at the end, or any other comment. God of hope, as we head into a new year, help us to be people who not only find hope in you and in our world, but who help to bring hope to others, especially those who may be feeling hopeless, because we know that with you there is always hope. Amen. Thank you for joining me. See you again tomorrow, I hope. Bye for now.